being said, we'll go ahead and start. Please feel free to message in your questions, and I look forward to getting to those at the end of the call. I know as we start kicking into high gear, we're going to see more and more attendance or people joining this call, which is great. So if I'm not able to get through all the questions, we'll make sure that we're having our market managers go ahead and follow up with you guys as well. But go ahead and kick things off here with some seasonality updates. Excuse me. So we're going to actually start at the bottom of this map here, and as you can kind of see, this mustard-looking color is what we call Zone G. These are our desert scape states, for lack of better terminology, or zero scape, but mostly desert scape. We're going to be bi-weekly until the end of May, at which time we're going to go weekly through just about the end of September. And then Zone F, we are in a weekly frequency, so we should start to see, I mean, there's a lot of requests for more work, obviously, but we're kicking things into high gear with weekly changes. And obviously, as we get customers continuing to trickle in, because that is still happening with agreements and whatnot, we should continue to enjoy more jobs as well. So just note that we're going to be weekly all the way through the first part of November, and if for whatever reason we're not seeing any work, like I said, there's still customers that we're still I guess crossing T's and dotting I's with some of these contracts a little bit later in the year than typical. So Zone E, we are actually going to be going weekly next week, so super excited about that. Got to spend some time in Georgia, and then the team's been in Texas as well. And so I know that we're ready to kick into high gear in some of these markets. Zone D, more specific to Atlanta, will be going weekly for 16. Thanks to everybody who took the time to go and meet in Atlanta last week. It was a huge meeting. Atlanta is by and large our biggest single market, and we had a great turnout in response from you guys, and appreciate the feedback. There's some takeaways specific to that market that I'd like to schedule some time and follow up with you guys next week. So note that is still being looked into, some of those questions and takeaways. Zone C, we're going to be turning bi-weekly next week. It's always the weirdest zone, to be honest with you. I live in this zone, but right now it was nice, and then it was snowing, and then now it's raining, and so you get a lot of that I guess up and down and lull between storms and weather. But we'll be going bi-weekly, so just keep us informed in terms of jobs and job completion. If for some reason the weather's impacting you, we should be seeing that internally with our system indicating that. But understand that this is kind of a tricky one sometimes, but we want to make sure that we're staying in the loop, as we'll talk a little bit more in this call in terms of ensuring jobs are getting done. And then Zone B, we're going to be turning on April 30th, and Zone A is turning on May 7th, so just a week after. I will say there are quite a few conversations, as you guys are well aware, I'm sure, with interest rates and everything going on with the Fed. A lot of our customers are very eagerly awaiting how the current economic landscape, so to speak, is going to shape up, and so we're seeing requests that are coming in a little bit later. We may see a couple delayed turn-ons with a few customers, and that's all part of that specific piece of information. We're just kind of see how the cookie crumbles, and so, like I said, if we're not seeing all of these jobs on, that's most likely a big part of that. But grass can only grow for so long, and we also want to do our best with our customers to ensure that we're not having to tap into overgrowth, which is great for all of us. It doesn't slow you guys down. We can get more jobs done the first day instead of having them rescheduled. All right, so going into our next topic here, performance expectations. Name of the game. This should be no news or shock, or this shouldn't be the first time you're hearing this. Obviously, y'all work with market managers. We're staying in touch. We need to make sure we're doing our part with that this year, and uh, just opening up the communication. So timeliness is our biggest goal, is quality and timeliness, to be honest with you. So contractors with the highest, we call it OTC, is on time completion rating, get first rights to jobs. And I just want to say thanks. We've seen a tremendous response over the past several months. And continuing actually from last year, it's continued to look so good from all angles across all markets. And certainly do appreciate that. And when I was in Atlanta, like that's what we like to see. I told all of our vendors there that, as a last resort, we like to recruit. We like to work with all of you guys to see, what you're able to pallet in terms of taking on more work, and go from there. So on-time completion is the best way in terms of starting that out in the right foot early in the relationship and partnership with us. High quality work. That goes hand in hand. If we're not on time, or if we're on time, the next piece is going to be quality. So the big piece there is just make sure you read the task instructions. If you have questions, give us a call. We're busy staffing up as well. We have a seasonality component, just like most of you guys do. While we do service snow across the country, we still have lulls in terms of volume, and our core product obviously is in the landscape realm. So we will have new staff. So just ask for patience as we get everybody caught up to speed. We tried to minimize those changes this year to ensure that knowledge base is consistent. But high quality work, just making sure that we're not avoiding rejections. We don't want second chance jobs as much as you guys don't want second chance jobs. Nobody gets paid if they get rejected. And a customer, usually for rejection, it's some minor stuff, but we hold ourselves to high standards, and that's what helps us secure these big national accounts. And then communication. So nothing ever, everything's gray, right? It's never clear cut. So if there is something that seems off, or maybe you have questions about something in particular, just consistently communicate with your market manager. And if it's an on-site scenario, just let us know. Give us a call. Like I said, we've got our team that we're quickly ramping up, ready to help take your calls. Another piece that we've spent some time in is what we call our contractor resource center. So again, we understand things don't always go as planned, but what we have done is we have this resource, no pun intended, to allow you, and more importantly your teams, because I see the names on this. You guys know what we expect. Obviously, some of you have been with us longer than I've been here, to be honest with you. So if you have questions, or your team has questions, as you're ramping up your team about overgrowth, or what to do with no growth, or service blockers, such as log gates, construction debris, access issue, so on and so forth, this resource center that we've gone through and updated is going to have all your up-to-date information. And then if you don't have that on your next call, definitely can ask your market manager. I think in addition to that, we can also send a link out to the Contractor Resource Center, just so that everybody is of the same understanding of where to find all this information. So other piece, I will say, with no growth, especially as we go into Zone C, if a job is on your schedule, we are contractually cleared to service it. And I say that because I see a lot of statusing within our app, which gets shared to our broader team, and says no growth. And there's always something to do on these properties. And so, we have the curb appeal and shoulder season guidelines of just making sure that we're documenting the things that we do, and put notes to I guess highlight and underscore the stuff that you are able to take care of on site in terms of demonstrating through photos. But don't forget, if that's on schedule, go ahead and service it. Everything's been cleared, and as long as we're servicing it, we'll be fine. Next piece, this is becoming increasingly more important. It's vendor impression management is what we're getting to in terms of how we show up, and you guys obviously represent task easy when you're servicing the properties, just like we represent when we're going to properties, and how we're showing up is super important, and especially with the slew of occupied properties that we're going to be receiving from residents. So as you know, most properties that we have service are typically in a vacant state, and then every 4 or 5 weeks, or we get 4 or 5 mows usually on average before they turn over and they become occupied. Well, obviously, a lot can happen during that status where the property is occupied, and when we get that property back after the tenant moves out. And our customers are quickly coming to the realization that if we were to service those properties while occupied, we can really cut back on additional funds, having to do some big projects and reno in general. So there is a growing appetite. I think this is kind of more of a crawl, walk, run type piece, but I think we're more in the walking phase of it as we've been attacking this segment. And so we're going to see more of these properties. I was brought up, how to approach, tenants, and if a house is occupied. I guess the easy way is just, go knock on the door and introduce yourself. If you see a car in the driveway, obviously, there's concerns if there's dogs or whatnot and animals in the back, and we obviously want you guys to be safe. So I think that's probably the best bet to be able to do that. And then there's a couple of takeaways in terms of indicating, what that property status, whether it's occupied or unoccupied, which I think would be helpful for you and your team for just that same reason. I mean, I've in my past life, I've definitely gone into a house for a remodel project and didn't realize or wasn't expecting a dog, for instance. So you guys all have probably had some experience with that, but just when you're showing up to properties too, we want to be clearly identifiable. Make sure that as more people are working remote, that we can. It's obvious that we're the landscaping company, so it's just important to show up and dress the part, so to speak. I'm not saying we need to be suited to boot it, so to speak, in terms of dress, but just the appropriate attire, so to speak. And then professional communication. I heard it, enough, even just last week, that, if a tenant or a client approaches you on site, just communicate professionally. If things kind of escalate or there's questions, just let them know that you're here to mow the lawn. You're partnering with Task Easy to service the lawn. And if they ask to leave, then go ahead and do that. The last thing we want is an altercation. And then if that is the case, and this is usually the exception, not the norm for you that are new with us. We would just like you guys to let us know. So one, we could get you taken care of in terms of your time, whether that be a trip charge or whatnot. And then two, it's important for us to status that property so that we can handle that with our customer before somebody else is dispatched to take care of it. And then lastly, this has come up a few times. We've heard this from our customers, and then we've heard this from our contractor network. But if you're asked about scope of work or pricing, it's important to keep that confidential. So just let us know. I mean, it has happened where our customers, whether they're a general contractor or one of the regional teams, will ask, and they might just not know all the construct of that because everything's handled with a corporate team. So we just ask, keep that stuff confidential. In the same vein, we've heard that sometimes from our customers, in terms of, asking to have the work directly go through them. So again, just let us know if something like that happens. It's such a small percentage that of the time that this kind of stuff happens, but as we're getting ready to kick into gear with some new contractors ready for the season, I wanted to make sure we cover that today. And then monetizing every visit. So we are working on a really, really cool project that's been in the works actually for the last year or so, but it's in-app additional funds. And what that will do, we're testing it right now with single truck contractors without teams right now, because we want to see how everything works and test it. But this will allow you basically to go to a property. If it's overgrown, make a selection that the property is overgrown and kind of walk through there with direction. Some of you may be on that pilot, but then you'll be able to request additional funds and handle that without having to call in. course, we love to hear from you guys, and we welcome the calls, but we also know that sometimes that can take time. And big piece of this, in addition to, you know, you know, making that go quickly through the process is also, not having to write out the bids because you can just go through a series of questions. But I will also say that I'm expecting to see a little bit more, uh, we'll call it budget conscious, customers this year, given everything we're kind of seeing with interest rates and whatnot. So we may be more in that bidding, even though we've built the infrastructure to handle, uh, allowables, so to speak, because every property in our system, for the most part, we have an allowable on a first service. But as we look at that, there might be a little bit more scrutiny as customers are trying to watch their pocketbook, so to speak. So just make sure that when you're on a property, to monetize every visit, that you're bidding on any out of scope items that you think would help the property, especially stuff that's a potential hazard. And I'm thinking like tree branches touching properties, so on and so forth. I think it'd be great to notify as we continue to be the eyes, ears, and boots on the ground for our customers. Request additional funds. Right now, that's the same process, except for those of you who are in the pilot, where we're doing that in app, and we hope to have that rolled out very soon to the broader contractor network. And then just timely bids. So if for whatever reason, a bid is needed, making sure that we get that bid in as quickly as possible, so that we're not delaying things on our end. Now, I've heard as well, it seems, from not even just hearing it from you guys, but just looking at the data, there's a little bit of a response delay in terms of bids at times, more recently. And again, I think that comes back to everybody's being a little bit more judicious with spend, just like we all are, kind of in everything in our lives. So bear with us as we work with our customers to get everything secured. Obviously, we want to get those jobs done as quickly as possible and hear a response back, because you're back for a while. Obviously, things grow and change rather quickly in some parts of the country. So with that being said, just making sure that you're keeping an eye on the property. Most importantly, making sure that we're handling everything in scope, reading the task instructions. But outside of that, if you're seeing, some kind of hazardous type uh, um, debris, and really what's coming to mind, I walked a bunch of properties and I saw a lot of tree branches really close to the house that can cause some problems. And if that's something you can handle, let us know. Or if there's, just something that you can take care of that maybe we're not seeing or customers don't see, because you're at the property week in, week out, let us know, and we can definitely work with them to try and get an approval. With that being said, we've got some time for questions here. So let me go ahead and get through a few of these. Yep. So Michael, I know that we're in a bi-weekly frequency in Atlanta, and based on our network, we've turned off for the season, but that's all kicking in April 16th. April 17th, we should be into that frequency. So that's when I would expect to start seeing working. Let's see. Looks like there's a question around QC approving jobs. There's jobs in QC for almost a week. It shouldn't take that long to approve. I look at queue status on our side to see how long things are aging, and we're pretty up to date. So I'm not sure if it's something more nuanced potentially in terms of the job. Maybe it's like a bid or a custom task or whatnot that's looking for an additional approval. But if you want to chat me and let me know, I'll share the feedback either way. Yeah, Arizona. Arizona is bi-weekly right now, but in terms of the frequency, we've had a lot of customers voice concerns, Stephen, and just in terms of like not needing it to be serviced every single week up until I have to go back and look at the map here, but let's do that actually, because this will help. Up until the end of May, but I know that that may change from some of the customers. But when we're looking at on a whole, most of our customers in those markets in Arizona are on a biweekly frequency anyway. For those that aren't, I think that this is our best take at being able to find that happy medium. So. Yeah, so there's a question about mulch, and I've talked a lot about mulch. It feels like over the past 3 weeks. I will say, you will most likely not see mulch tasks, as you know. Those concerns are super valid. I think the 5 bag minimum it doesn't get you very far. I've done big mulch jobs myself, and 5 bags doesn't even, you know, it doesn't even give an initial layer on top of the existing stuff. And to really get that taken care of, we're talking about cleaning out the beds and putting down a barrier and putting 3 inches. Like that's the juice isn't worth the squeeze in its current state. So we'll say if there are mulch tasks, it's going to be a bit. Want to make sure you guys are obviously getting the most out of that in terms of doing it the right way, but then obviously from a price standpoint. So if you do see a mulch bid, that would be a one-off request, and then we can obviously have you measure out the beds and do things as you normally would do. But that 5 bag and then bid on the excess, just come to a point where we gotta work with our customers to I guess, lack of a better word, come to an agreement in terms of how that should be done. Because the way we're doing it now, it's a lot of noise for everybody, and I think we can come up with something better internally to go ahead and package with our customers and get on the same page with you guys. Yeah, I will say, so QC does go through employee addition as the end of the work goes. We do see consistency. Let's see. I will also say, because Jeff made that comment, that we definitely try to preserve that knowledge base within that QC department, because knowing the ins and outs and understanding the photos and all that, that's super important. So we should see a little bit of a difference in that this year. I know the team's working really hard. Nobody's perfect, and still welcome feedback, obviously, but that's something we've still tried to preserve. So yeah, that's awesome. So there's door magnets from when we had an elite program years ago, and there was any chance of getting more, I guess, is the question. But I think that's definitely something to consider as part of our we were acquired by a pretty big player in the software space, obviously WorkWave. Maybe some of you guys use that software, but we have our own. We have the ability to do things a little bit differently, and we're actually looking at maybe even setting up a storefront, especially because a lot of you guys are either new in this in the landscape business, or even scaling down, and t-shirts and all those pieces. If we can just provide that, and you guys can buy those kinds of things, or magnets even, that's potentially something we can do. But I'm excited about the prospect. I don't know how soon I can get that stood up, but it's on the horizon. Yeah. Occupied properties, it's super good point, Linda. Definitely knock on the door. I think it's important to do that, because I remember walking in Orlando, I was taking pictures, and I got all kinds of looks, and I got talked to by some of the residents, because it is kind of it's a weird look if you don't know what's going on, obviously. So good point. Just make sure you're knocking on the doors. All right, let's see. Got a few more minutes. Let's see. There's questions about properties in Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte. I know I've got some of my team on the call. I'm expecting more properties to turn on there. I don't know if there's a delay, given obviously the hurricane, pretty devastating to that area. And if there's other considerations with Reno, I have no idea. We were literally just out there, I want to say a few weeks back, probably chatting with you, James, as well, hopefully. But that's something we can follow up on. That whole area, I continue to see growth, and it's one of our fastest growing. We call it Fort Myers in general, but just the entire southwest of Florida is just booming. So Not just Burmese pythons either. I saw that. Is pretty crazy out there. Let's see. And then there's so trash outs. That is something that we're still working on. So we have that all stood up. I know Robert and Kevin have most likely talked with a bunch of you guys, and we led a call about trash outs. As soon as we get customers signing up, we'll be good to go. We have some interest, and we're piloting some of that potentially here in Dallas and Houston, and potentially rolling then into Arizona and Atlanta pretty quickly. So we'll let you know as soon as that gets done, and we'll move forward. Yeah, we won't do mulch in the desert. Let's see. Some changes in the app where you can't add pictures to a job if you took the wrong pictures. You can no longer retake the pictures. Let me circle back on that. There's not like a way to delete that, or maybe an option to redo that. I could circle back and see if there's been an issue. I wasn't aware that anything's changed with that, Ken, but we can definitely take a look into it. Looks like some QC issues with cleaning jobs. Here, let me actually send you my information to the individual who sent that, so you can send me all the details around that with our cleans team, so that we can get back to you. Yeah, and then leaf removal, lots of time. That's something I think we need to continue to iterate on, especially going into leaf season next year. But then on cleanups this year, it can be quite a bit of work. I think the big thing is sometimes when we're tracing properties and we get thousands of thousands in, we the views that we're looking from a Google image, we might not see the entire property line, or maybe Google isn't updated with that. So we want to make sure that you're getting paid for the time. And I understand, especially being out in the southeast, the lots and there's, for lack of a better word, there's a lot of you know a lot of wooded areas and backyards, and where the service starts and ends, that can be kind of confusing, and potentially our team has an opportunity with that. And I think from that standpoint, if for whatever reason we need to adjust something and look at a tracing, just give us a call, we can do that. Um, but I know that came up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Ricky Allen says, when will Vegas get hot? Uh, that market we're expecting to see continued growth through. So I will make sure that Ricky, when we get jobs coming, we'll keep you in the sync. I know that John will give me an earful if we don't. So okay, Linda's saying she had to call in to get photos deleted to retake. So yeah, I know we've got some team members on the phone. Linda, if you can, here I will message you. So if you can send me the property potentially where you've had to do that, if you remember, that would be great. And we can have that example with our tech team and hopefully look into whatever's causing that. I know that we're at the top or at the bottom of the hour, which it's only a couple more questions here. So let me see if I can get through it. Yeah, and actually, let me just send this to everybody. If there's some specific questions, if I don't get right back to you, I will definitely link my team back in response, the right person that you should be speaking to. But this is the email address that you guys would want to go to. It's Matt Kaiser at taskeasy.com. Some of you guys hit me up on LinkedIn too. That's totally fine, whatever works best. But there's a couple specific questions that if you want to reach out to me, that'd be great. I can help out with that. And yeah, Ken saying this is the coldest in Vegas. It's been 30 years. In Utah, I think this is the most snow we've had in 40 years too. So that whole region has just been kind of crazy. So hopefully we start to see it warm up and we get jobs going and picking up. But at any rate, guys, I appreciate you all hanging back while we answered questions. If you have any other questions, feel free just to email me in. And like I said, either I or my team will go ahead and help you out. But we'll go ahead and end this meeting. And I hope you guys have a rest of a great day. See ya.